My oldest boy is turning 5 years old this week, and one of the gifts we have for him is a new Lego set. Not a day goes by that he's not sitting there at his little table for hours on end, reconstructing his Lego pieces to make some new creation. I'm sure a few weeks ago he told us what he wanted for his birthday, but in reality, we already knew what he wanted well before he even asked us. As we're looking at the Lord's Prayer in Matthew 6 and considering how it can kind of guide us in praying through COVID-19, I want to draw our attention to the one that we are addressing in our prayer, the one that is described in the verses leading up to the Lord's Prayer, the one who knows our needs before we even ask him. Jesus' prayer begins, "Our Father," which makes sense when you realize that Jesus has been talking about God the Father for the first 8 verses in the chapter. He's just finished explaining that how unsaved people use empty phrases and lots of words because they think that that's the only way that God will hear and answer them. But those people are making 2 false assumptions about God. Number one, they assume that God doesn't listen. They have to use lots of words in order to persuade him to listen and to act. If you're a parent, you might have experienced this, one of your kids coming and asking over and over again lots of words so that you will actually hear them. Number 2, they assume that God doesn't know. And they feel that they need to kind of inform God of their needs. But what do we as children of God know about God as our Father? Well, number 1, our Heavenly Father hears the prayers of his children. Psalm 18, verse 6, "In my distress I called upon the Lord. To my God I cried for help. From his temple he heard my voice, and my cry to him reached his ears." Psalm 40, verse 1, "I waited patiently for the Lord. He inclined to me and heard my cry." So if you are hurting today for whatever reason and you cry out to your Heavenly Father as a child of God, know that he hears you. Know that he loves you, because remember, he is the one who adopted you. Hannah cried out to God because she couldn't have a baby. Job cried out to God when he lost his health and really everything he had. David cried out to God when he was running for his life, and God heard them. Our Heavenly Father hears the prayers of his children. And secondly, remember that our Heavenly Father knows the needs of his children. Praying is not a way to inform God. It's a way to show our dependence on him. In Matthew 7, a chapter after the Lord's Prayer, where we find the Lord's Prayer, it says this in verse 7, "Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and it will be open to you." Down in verse 9, "Which one of you," Jesus says, "if his son asks him for bread, will give him a stone? Or if he asks for a fish, will give him a serpent? If you then, who are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father who is in heaven give good things to those who ask him?" It doesn't say that God will give you anything and everything, but Jesus says God will give you good things. So if God doesn't give it to you, it's not good. It's not what you need. The point here, I think, is to pray with dependence on God instead of demanding from God. When we depend on God, it means we trust in his plan that it's better than ours. So we ask, we seek, we knock, and God will give us good things. It doesn't necessarily mean that it'll be exactly what we want, but it will be what we need. God is not an overindulgent parent who just gives you whatever you want. He is a good Father who gives you exactly what you need. So pray with dependence, pray with confidence, because your Father hears your prayers, he cares about your pain, and he knows what you need.